All right. Welcome to Saints on Cinema. I'm Tim Wilde, back again with my friend and old high school drama club chum, Nate Woodbury. And Nate, what was the other episode you did with us? I was trying to remember last night. You did
What was it? It was
something awesome, but forgettable because I just I do so many
right.
of these.
I'm trying to think, and I can't. I
It
like
wasn't.
remember the conversation that we had.
Yeah. All I remember was you talked about how, I think it was off camera, how you met Mike Myers and he was kind of a dick.
Yeah, he was not a nice guy.
That's
But
the only thing I remember from our conversation, and that
right.
wasn't even recorded. Oh,
I
I'll have to
probably
look.
ought to have a little bit more grace on that one because we all have our bad days, and maybe that was one
Yeah,
of those.
I've heard some celebrities, especially comedians, and they've talked about how when they get approached, a lot of them have different philosophies and different days they handle their fans differently, and I don't judge them for that. But there's ways to do
Yeah,
it without being a dick. But so
yeah,
if I knew a lot of people that had that experience with him, then I'd be like, hey, he's kind of a dick in public. And there are some celebrities I've heard that, but we're not
yeah.
going to get into that. That's not what this episode's about. I'm talking about the Predator films. The movie Prey just came out yesterday. I did my personal wild thoughts on it. And just got out my impressions, spoiler free. Nothing really exciting in that episode or in that discussion by myself. Not a discussion. You have a one-way discussion. Even though that's how this feels right now
As
because
a
I'm
monologue.
yeah, it's a monologue. But Prey came out, and Nate, you were one of the first people I saw chime in on it, and that was like hours
Yeah.
after it released at midnight. Did you stay up and watch this thing?
No, I watched it like probably, I don't know, an hour or so after I got up.
Oh, really?
So
Okay.
yeah, I
So
I
I work.
posted that like literally right when it finished.
Okay. I didn't say because I work graveyards and I watched. I watched. By the time I saw your post, it was like, yeah, Nate covered this like hours and hours ago, and I was like, holy cow, he must have been ready for it.
With my
Uh,
one word review.
yeah, sucked or boring? What did you say?
It
You said.
sucked and waste of time.
Anyway, so that led to a very mini conversation, but I'd been looking forward to this. I didn't even know about this movie before about 2 weeks ago. I saw a trailer. It was like, so I don't remember. And I
Yeah.
don't watch trailers. I don't watch a lot of commercials even on YouTube ads and stuff like that. So I didn't know this was even coming. But when I saw the trailer, I was like, ooh, they took out all this stupid sci-fi garbage of the military, secret labs, all that stupid crap, and they went back to the bare bones, just some
Yeah.
character fighting a predator. I was so excited. And
Yeah.
in all my my ignorance, I didn't even realize the play on words that was predator and prey.
Yeah.
And
I,
that's
I really
brilliant.
liked that they went with a Native American cast too. I was like
Yeah.
really excited for that. And so, when it fell a little flat, I was like, oh.
Yeah. So we're gonna get into we're not and this episode's not gonna be a big movie review of Prey, definitely not. But what we're doing is we're gonna be ranking the Predator films, and mostly this is gonna be Nate's list. I'm gonna give my thoughts on the movies as we go. I think we're gonna have pretty similar thoughts. We're the same age. We've been around these movies and watching them about at different points in our lives when they came out, when different let's say maturity of our appreciation and comprehension of what makes good film and what is schlock, and some things
Yes.
that I used to think was good film is schlock, and some things like this Prey.
Right.
About 5 years from now, people or 10 years from now, they'll think this is schlock. But right
Yeah.
now, it's like fresh. But yeah, I think we're gonna have kind of very similar views. And let's face it, the good Predator movies are good, the bad ones are bad, and there's not a lot of justification you can make to defend the crap ones. So I think everyone's list would be pretty similar. But this is going to be focused more on your list, why you put them there, and then at the end, I'll just throw my ranking on there, and we're just going to kind of go through and talk about them just lightly. But before we get into the list, Nate, I want to know kind of how, like, when did you fall in love? I mean, not like maybe it's not fall in love. I mean, apparently, and you mentioned before we hit record that you watched all the movies getting ready for Prey. I don't know anyone that was that interested in this movie or even had that much foreknowledge of this movie.
It was a good reason to binge, really.
That it was an excuse to check them all out.
Yeah, I haven't watched a lot of them in a long time. The first one I've watched probably most recently, but a nice review the content.
Yeah, refreshing up before you watch it.
Uh-huh.
Do you how often do you watch the first one? Realistically,
probably once a year. It's
year?
about like, up there with Star Wars. I watch the original trilogy about once a year, maybe a little bit more.
Okay, that's good. I'm not saying that's appropriate. I'm just saying like that's that's reasonable for a movie that's as old as it is, and that just shows that you really appreciate that's a nostalgia.
It's a big nostalgia thing for sure.
Right there. Yeah, but as we're gonna get into, it's a great movie. Okay, so Predator 2, and Alien versus Predator you mentioned, those are kind of in limbo as far as a category of a genre, or a franchise.
They're in a pruned multiverse or something like that,
Yeah. Yeah, we'll get into that. The Predator that came out with that 3 years ago.
2018, I think. So
was it?
Yeah.
Did you rewatch that getting ready for Prey?
Huh?
Did you rewatch that getting ready for Prey?
No, I watched that one. I had forgotten. Honest to God, I had forgotten that one even existed until I was looking through I searched up IMDb and like there was the Predator, and I was like, wait a minute. And so I was like, I don't think I've watched that. But then when I watched it, I was like, yeah, I've watched it, and I fell asleep to it, to be honest.
You didn't miss. You could have slept through any half hour or hour of that movie, except for a 15-minute sequence that we'll talk about, and you would not miss out on anything in the world. And it's very forgettable. Anyway, so this coming out was a big course correction and a very well done one. But my issue is they already did a course correction after AVP when they did Predators, and then they did the Predator. I was like, hey, you guys, you navigated away from the iceberg, and then you like went hard into it, like harder than you.
Way to pull a Titanic.
Yeah. So anyway, that's cool. So, but yeah, as a kid, when did you really fall into the Predators? Was it the movie, or did you play like the AVP games and all that stuff?
It was the first movie. My parents let me watch R-rated films in the 80s when I watched Nightmare on Elm Street in 1984. I was 4 years old. So, I've watched it since 1987. Just, I was a big Arnold fan back in, who wasn't in the 80s really,
right,
and 90s. But I fell in love with it back then. So I've been with it the whole time.
And that was the thing, and it was like Star Wars movies back in the day. Like you didn't have one or have so many of them, even crappy ones, that it was just like all Predator stuff all the time. Yeah, it was like when the second one came out, and I didn't really know what the Predator was by the time the second one was out before I really discovered it. I was like 11 or something. But like it's not like now where it's just regurgitation of the Predator. Where in this one you can have action with the Predator the entire movie, and you're not like in Prey I'm talking about, where it's not like you don't have to have this big suspension of like what's going on. So they're trying to piece it all together, and they did that in Predators. Did it very well. Yeah. But I'm saying like this one that's why this was entertaining, and Prey was because it was just Predator fun without showing the Predator till later on. But the magic of the first one is like, and the second one is the characters piecing together what's going on. Predators brought that back as well. So I mean that was what was cool. We didn't have so much. So like
and Predators had a different twist to it, where it was like Lance mentioned that it was the Predator series is very much like the classic short story, The Most Dangerous Game. And Predators is the one that like really resembles that, where humans have actually been brought to this place to be hunted specifically. So I
saw his post about that, but I'm illiterate. I don't read short stories. That's why I do a show called Saints on Cinema, not Saints on my library. And my library is all comic books and Superman books, stuff like that. And I was going to mention, I couldn't find it very quickly, but about 10 years ago, they had a series, and they've had a lot of interactions with Predators, and they've had novels with Predator and Alien, Predator and Batman. But I had one, it was a 2-part comic, 2, maybe 3, and it was like a bigger one. And I couldn't find it. I have the first half, and I never got the second half, so I don't know how it ended. But it was Alien versus Predator versus Batman and Superman, or something like that. It was all 4 of them. Do you remember that?
I never read them, but yeah, I remember it.
I was like, how can you possibly even pretend that Superman would be any of a threat to any of these things?
Right.
But they figured it out. The story took place deep in the earth in a volcano somewhere. So like the Predators and aliens, they were fine. Batman could do his thing, but Superman's powers were weaker because he was so submerged. He was away from the sun, which is a crazy exaggeration. It was something like that, but it was like, it's okay. It's fun schlock, you know. If you're doing aliens and Predators and Batman and Superman, what you gonna do, you know?
Well, you'd have to do a situation like that because, like, Superman would just pull Hudson from Aliens and just nuke him from space.
Yeah, there's and I don't. Well, yeah, I can't imagine that alien blood would penetrate his Kryptonian skin, and if it did, he would just.
Yeah, it would be like being splashed with maybe hot grease.
Yeah, and you can get that off quick if you're as a reaction. And even if not, Superman can just fly at super speed, and it's the molecules from the blood are not going to cling.
Like hitting the freeway after you've just got a car wash.
Exactly. Oh, I don't remember anything about the Predator in that story, except that I don't remember the story why they were down there because I didn't finish it. But it was a cool concept, and I was like, you know, I love Superman. But anyway, that's not what we're here to talk about. Let's go ahead and get started with our ranking the Predator films, and we're gonna just go through your list, and then I'll throw my categorizations at the very end. So we're gonna show Nate's list. Let's see if there's a better, cleaner view. No, we don't want me. We don't want just you. All right, we're gonna be minimized. Are you ready, Nate? You ready to defend yourself?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Okay, dishonorable mention number 1, AVP. All right, walk us through your thought process here, because I struggled with the AVP movies in order. Why is AVP worse than? Well, why is it worse? The most worst.
I don't know. I think the first one was just so convoluted, and the second one was just, you know, them going at it. I feel like, I don't know. It's been a long time since I watched them. I maybe watched both of them possibly twice. But, you know, the second time would have been that reminder of why I don't enjoy watching them. I thought like the whole bringing in the Weyland-Yutani Corporation in the first one was just shoehorned and it just didn't feel good.
Yeah.
So
my biggest issue with it was they've completely forgot that predators live and hunt and prefer heat. Like they made that a big deal in the first two movies. It wasn't just a jungle was a cool place to hide.
Yeah.
It was, but like by the time they came to the second movie, they specifically mentioned how it was particularly hotter in LA during that time, and so it was more accommodating for the predator. Every other story has been like in kind of a warm environment, except for some reason they decided Antarctica would be the perfect place for this battle. And I was like,
not just Antarctica, but like below a glacier, like in the middle of a glacier.
Yeah, in this was like Raccoon City. What is that? The basin
where it goes under. Yeah,
it's like here's
the
this
hive,
big,
I think maybe something like that.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, I never got into those at all, but
not really.
Saw the movies. Resident Evil is what I was referring to, but anyway, yeah, I thought that was one thing where I was like, okay, these guys already don't have a love or a concern for the lore of Predator, so I knew this wasn't
Alien.
Or see, and that's the thing. I had never watched, this is embarrassing for me, I've never watched an Alien movie until after this movie. And this movie didn't inspire me to watch it. I just never got around to it. None of my friends really hung out and watched Alien movies. We'd seen Predator because it was cool. Like you said, Arnold schlock, 80s action movies. Yeah. But I never got into Alien. So
James Cameron's sequel, The Aliens, was really the most watchable one.
Yeah, I watched them all a couple years ago. I saw Alien like 10 years after I saw this. I saw Alien. Then I finally saw Aliens. Aliens was forgettable. I mean, just for me at the time. But I remember the horror. I love the space horror vibe of Alien. Really cool. Aliens turned it more into James Cameron action, like T2 kind of a stuff, kind of a thing. And it's good. There's a big debate over which one of those two are better. Where do you
Well,
land? Do you
they
think Jews
kind
better?
of fall into different categories. I
Yeah, they
think,
do.
you know, like you identified, the one is like a survival horror, and the one is like more of an actiony survival horror.
Yeah, it's
So
true. Yeah, a lot of tropes came out of Predator, or not Predator 2, Aliens, but it's cool. It's good stuff. And then 3, I finally watched 3. I was like, why they set up these stories and they just kill off the characters to go on with the story. They kill off the characters that
right,
go on with the story, and I was like, what's the point? You know, why
yeah,
have a survival story when they're dead in the next immediate movie?
yeah. What was the point of like having Hicks and the little girl survive if they're just gonna die in a crash landing?
Immediately, spoiler alert from a movie that's 30 years old. But they also that's the thing. That's one thing that's a good quality about the Predator films is that you don't have that same. You have deaths and casualties and people that you
Yes,
care about, but there's people that survive, and there's it's
yes,
not just like throwaway death alive characters for the next film, and they don't connect. But they
right.
kind of
They're
they've
one-offs.
kind of established, yeah, and that's why I like this anthology kind of a thing.
Yes,
That's what I liked about Prey. Anyway,
episodic,
maybe.
if you will.
Yes, exactly. You can watch them, and there's enough connection and just a little bit of dialogue that pieces it together. That they're not just their own crazy stories that don't
Yeah.
have anything to do with each other. But
Well,
it's
and
also not a big convoluted mess like you said this was.
No, in fact, you could probably watch them out of order and not have any issues whatsoever.
No, I agree. Except for if you were in, I was thinking about this. If you introduce someone, I'll ask you this: like, have your kids? Do you have a couple kids, right?
Yeah, 3.
3 kids, couple 3 kids, as they would say in Colville.
Couple 3.
Couple 3 kids. If you were to, if they haven't already watched them, if you were going to introduce them to the Predator franchise, what movie would you have them watch first?
Oh, it was the first one for sure.
You did?
The first one's the best one, so
it is. And what's cool about the first one is it's so good at establishing what the concepts of the Predator are. You know, concepts that the movie The Predators forgot.
Right.
But it tells the story of what they're doing, that they're hunting, the infrared stuff. You have to be armed, like all that stuff, what the concept is. And then all the different movies after that kind of forget some different pieces of it. And it's not that hard of a checklist. There's like 5 things on the list. How hard is it to make a Predator movie?
And a few of them actually make mention of the first one of like, special forces went into the Guatemala and
and I love that. I love that in the second one when they're like, "Oh, he tells the debriefing." Yeah. They talk about the debriefing of Arnold
too.
Yeah, they
Adrian Brody one.
Yeah. So it's I don't know. I don't think it's hard to make a Predator movie. I think the formula is pretty easy. Prey finally remembered how easy it is. But here's the thing. You have alien creatures when they have their own lore, and then you have Predator movies that has its own lore. And for years, you remember how long people have been talking about waiting for it was like Jason versus Freddy. Everyone wanted this collision for so long, and then we finally got it. And the story is about some freaking scientists, human scientists in Antarctica, with these characters kind of popping in on the side. Now, you always have to have human, protagonists. That's obvious. But like you had a special forces team in the first one, like the greatest special forces team. Then you had the cops in LA, like the best super cops. You had the Predators, you had the criminals, of different variations. You always had like some interesting characters. AVP, they're like, we're gonna have the first movie about scientists, and then a bunch of a podunk hick town like Colville in the second movie. And you're like, that's not a good formula to give us a focus that we care about these characters. And like you said, completely forgettable. No, that was my problem.
In fact, that would have been fine if they would have done something that was just in space.
Yeah. And well, when we get to Predator AVP 2, I'll mention that. But praiseworthy things about AVP. The fight at the end with the Queen, awesome. That was a really good fight where she had to team up with him. And I can't remember the details. He took the skull of one of the aliens it killed and made a shield and everything because the skeleton of the alien would protect from the blood, all that stuff. That one alien that had the net on its face, so it had like that scar melted in. Yeah. Oh, there was some cool visuals, some cool concepts, but you're following around this freaking science group and you don't give a crap. Oh, and that long slide. When the aliens show up, and then they do all that stupid ceremonial crap at the temple, and they where they have the I remember they have the, what do they call the suction guys? The
face huggers.
Face huggers. They trap them on the wall as like a ceremony, and then that breeds them out, and there's a queen underneath, and it's like they're hunting trial, they're whatever, they're proving grounds or something. I don't remember. It was, and that's the stuff I was like, okay, we're kind of stretching it here. But there was that cool shot with them on top of the pyramid, shooting and fighting off all the aliens hoarding up. Oh, that was kind of cool.
The whole thing in Antarctica, like when I watched the second Godzilla movie that came out recently, and they fought on Antarctica, I was like, oh no, it's Alien versus Predator all over again.
Yeah, I hope they don't crash into the pyramid.
Scientists included.
Oh, I had issues with that. Anyway, those are a few things I really liked, and it was cool when you heard the movie concept, because like you said, this came out, video games and books and comics of this came out long before the movie did, and everyone had high expectations, and then a lot of people were disappointed. I just had you lost you?
Yeah, I cut out for a second.
Oh, sorry. I was just frustrated because it focused on disinteresting science guys, and there was this little, it's kind of like how alien movies do that. There's like the ship, and there's like the corporate secret agenda, all that kind of stuff. And I was like, hey, that's not interesting for a Predator movie. And then you had 3 Predators. And this first time we saw that, 3 Predators going in, and you're like, hey, these aliens are not going to stand a chance against 3 Predators. And the first alien they fight took out 2 of them. And you're like, whoa, you never thought an alien could hold its own against the Predators.
Well, and they all had xenomorphs were designed to, is like drop them in on a planet, let them scorched earth it, and then they can remove all of the resources without having to fight.
Yeah, that's true. And that it really raised the stakes in that film, how they did that they established that this is not just going to be an easy win, and then you just had 1 Predator left. No, it's kind of cool. There's some cool concepts in there, but and the queen fight at the end was awesome, and that how they took it out, wrapping it in like that. I don't remember, it was chained to something heavy, and they knocked it into the water, and it's just like sinking. Like, oh, that sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, AVP was great.
Was not equal to the sum of its parts.
Okay, I'll agree with that. But they definitely did worse, but we'll get there. in my mind. All right, so number 6, AVP Requiem, or AVP 2. Oh, this is when you had the Predator alien. Remember, that was the other cool thing at the end of the first one. They had that little teaser with the whatever thing pops out, and it was like a Predator. Woo!
That's one of the things that I absolutely hate about the Alien sequels, is that they tend to the aliens that burst out of the chest take on the traits of whatever animal incubated it, and I hate that, because like, you know, if a goose were to sit on a duck egg, it's not gonna like hatch some weird mongrel goose duck. Like what? Like it's the biological being is just the incubator. Come on now.
Well, yeah, but the face huggers also develop grabbing nutrients and all kinds of stuff from, I don't know, maybe there's some other chemical thing. It's just like
from what I understand is they just have like, they have the egg, and then it has to have a host to be able to fully incubate.
To survive. Yeah. So incubation is different than fertilization.
Right.
So I see your point, but yeah, that's fair.
But like, you know, it was a cool looking alien. I mean, it was
right there.
Predator alien.
By the time it grew up, that was pretty awesome. But yeah, that little head come up. You're like, oh, that's so. And that shot, they took the body of the surviving. Well, it was dead. The last one that made it, and he's just sitting there on this, and then the big bay window out into space, and they walk away from the camera, pans in, and then super good. It's good.
Yeah, I don't have a whole lot of memory of those two, but yeah, I do remember that. Like, I resounding after seeing AVP, I was like, it sucked, but it was way better than the first one.
Really? So the problem with this one is you couldn't freaking see it. I remember I had to call our friend Matt, and I was like, Matt, how come I can't understand what's going on? Like in that first sequence with in the sewer, like they're in the sewer drains, it's all black and it's all water, and they're trying to make it all creepy, like the first movie kind of a tone. And it's like the aliens coming through and climbing on the walls and stuff. And they're like, I can't see what the crap is going
Yeah.
And then he told me like a lot of people complained about that. This was kind of early, like mainstream internet. And I was like, I felt validated. I'm like, okay, so it's not just that I can't comprehend or my TV really sucks, which it did at the time, that no one else could see what was going on either. And I was like, I want to see what's going on because it looks a lot better than the first one, like you said. But I just couldn't watch it. And all the characters didn't matter. No character in that movie mattered at all. I've only seen it like twice, maybe only once, like you said.
Right.
But here's the thing.
Time as a reminder of why you don't see it.
Yeah, well, because the first time you couldn't see it. It's
not in the rotation.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like the Solo movie. They need to re-put it out with better whatever, I do all that stuff in post. But here's what I liked about this movie, though. There's one scene that redeems it to me above the first one, as you put it above the first one. Now I can't remember where I put it on my list, so we'll get there. But the best scene in this film is when, and there's no dialogue, no narration. You don't have, what's his name? Morgan Freeman talking about penguins and then telling about, and then the aliens saw that, you had to figure out just from visual storytelling. And when you have a cut to, and first time we saw potentially, we didn't really confirm the Predator's home world, and they're like, it looks like Kashyyyk where the Wookiees live, they're in their big tree huts.
Yep.
Sitting up in there, and he gets the distress signal or whatever from the ship. And then he like grabs his gear. He's like, just got the commando gearing up, seeing like, and he gets out there, flies out there, finds the ship. He's walking through all the carnage where the Predator alien had killed everyone. And then he like picks up the visor of one of the alien or the one of the Predators, and he can see the replay of what happened. And then he's like, okay, we made a mess and we need to, it's not about we care about the humans, but he's like, we have to exterminate because we keep these things under control. And it showed that there was tension there, that he's like, I have to go track down this surviving alien and make sure we don't get more aliens, because they don't just let them loose and screw around. That's why they put them on Antarctica, because there's nowhere for them
ultimate prey. They're prey that fights back.
Right. And they don't want to let that
hunter to hunt those guys.
Yeah, and if they get out of control on Earth, for example, and they're very familiar with Earth, then he's like, well, then we've got a big problem. I don't know if they can take care of a planet overrun by aliens. Even then, they probably would just have to destroy it. Yep. So I did like that. I liked it a lot. All that sequence, and with no dialogue. There's no subtitles as he's talking to himself or talking to a computer, and their weird language. You can't have readouts telling what he's seeing. You're just watching him piece stuff together. And my dream movie, Nate, after seeing that scene, I was like, I would love an Alien versus Predator movie with no humans, no dialogue, where all you're doing is watching the visual storytelling of him doing that stuff. And, as I thought about it, watching Prey, we've had that in every single movie. And when you have the med kit sequences or polishing skulls in the trophy room, like you've always had this watching what he's doing with no dialogue and no explanation, understanding more about what they are. And it's intriguing. Like whenever they're doing their med kit stuff, you're like, that is so cool. I would love a whole movie of an alien hunting or a predator hunting aliens, so that's gold right there.
I felt the same way about Transformers. Cut the humans out and just give us Transformers.
Well, in the first one, I gotta say all the humans were fine. It was everything after the first one.
There just wasn't enough Transformer.
I agree. I'll agree with that.
Yeah.
And the Transformers stuff was weird, but I'd be happy to discuss those movies another time. Plot holes and non-needed Megan Fox and all. But anyway, but because there was some cool magic in some of those scenes in Alien AVP, and I don't remember any of the other action sequences except for something happened in the high school swimming pool. That's the only thing I remember. I don't remember what it was.
Yeah, I had that in my head. I thought that was the Predator, but no, it was AVP.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh well,
it
was some fun stuff, and I don't even remember how the end fight. You see, that's the thing. The first movie, I remember the end fight. This one, I don't remember the end fight. So that tells you something.
Yeah.
All right, let's get it. I don't know if you have another dishonorable mention. Ah! Are you serious? This counts as a regular Predator movie, not a dishonorable mention?
Well, isn't this
Oh,
part of the 7? Is there
yeah.
another one?
No, it's part of the
I
7,
mean,
but
it's close enough to the dishonorable mentions.
okay.
I'm fine with it. It sucked.
Okay, tell me why you didn't like this gem of a movie.
It just it
They
tried to
tried
do
so hard.
it
Directed by
tried way
Shane
too
Black.
hard. Yeah, they were trying to, I think, recreate the original
Franchise.
kind of Predator feeling, where it's this mishmash of special forces, and it was just, I don't know. And the predator in it is some kind of weird human predator hybrid, and
A
I fell
mutant
asleep.
thing.
I fell asleep, so like I don't know if it paid off.
Yeah. It has that. It's like an Urukai a predator kind of a thing. He's just some big, huge, bulky monster. Whenever if they want to demonstrate how awesome a creature is in these movies, they have to have it just kill a predator.
Mm-hmm.
And they did that in AVP. They did that in this one, and they did that in The Predators.
Yeah.
Or Predators.
Yeah.
And in this one, I was like, but they had this subplot of alien invasion that suddenly out of nowhere they had this, like, they wanted to come, they needed to advance themselves, I guess. And now there's like different groups of predators, because there's that one hero predator didn't want to be a part of it or something, and this one's like, oh, the rest of them are mutating this Urukai predator to go in and kill all the humans, like that's necessary. Like, we are nothing to them. The only reason we ever kill any of them is because they screw around with us because they're hunting.
Yeah, they're toying with us like a cat.
Yeah, there's no threat with humans against predators.
The one part I kind of enjoyed, and maybe it's my bias because I work with people on the autism spectrum, was the kid that figured out all of the computer stuff with the alien thing that was at autism. So
no, that was good. But they didn't. And he's the one. And it was like he was able to figure out like the reading. He had the helmet and the camera, the three.
And he
lights
screwed
and
over
stuff.
the aliens or the predators that were coming to like collect the one that it crash landed. He's like, nope, no cloak. Boop, 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 boop.
Yeah, that was actually some interesting stuff. And I didn't mind some of the cases, even though I don't remember them at all. I didn't mind some of the characters, but I did like that stuff. And he went out trick-or-treating. It was like Halloween or something. He put on the helmet. He was like walking around. I think if I remember, some bullies came up to him. He thought he was going to blow him away. That's some fun that you can do with this franchise. But like, by the time you get to the end, I don't remember if you remember the end. I barely remember the end sequence. So then you had the bad guy, the human, the corporate guy. And he had the camera or the cannon on his arm, and he like flinched and saw a bird or something, and he like accidentally shot his own head because he targeted himself, and so the cannon shot himself in the head and blew it up. It was like so fast, and I was like, all right. And then he had to fight on the hull of the ship trying to fly around, and they activate the shields and like cuts their legs off and stuff like that. I'm like, okay, some of this stuff is okay, but there's no interesting. This is a crazy story to get here, and that's not what these movies were. Never about the ships and all that kind of stuff. Seeing the ships, they were always unique. The drop pods in the second movie, when you finally got to see the inside of the ship, mind blown. It was so exciting. But like, to do this is just Marvel sci-fi modern day CGI garbage action, and it's stupid. And then at the end, they give him the Predator alien suit. It was like, he gave us this technology, and it's like, all right, I don't want to see anything else with this storyline, because that's not Predator. They're not alien invading Earth. They don't need us. And we learned from other movies that they have many, many worlds that they could go and screw around it. There's nothing here but us to toy with,
Yeah.
It was just dumb. I was like, yeah. The dog, how the kid, was it the kid or someone like trained the predator dog? I don't remember. Was it mutant? I don't remember. It was all this garbage.
Yeah, I got about halfway through, so it's
one redeeming scene in the
first. It's an incredibly forgettable movie.
Yes. I only remember those things I just mentioned because those were the big complaints I had afterwards. But everything else, nothing. The only thing I remember that was good though, the sequence where they had, well, I guess the opening sequence, he crashed. There was a crash in the beginning of the movie, and I don't remember much about, but they get there and he's like fighting him off, but then he dies or something. I remember how he dies.
He gets knocked out, and then
Yeah,
like
he's
they
unconscious.
capture him, and it's very
Right.
Independence Day kind of.
Yes, yeah, you're right. But and that's where the ship is in the later in the movie. But they the whole thing with the where he's in the lab and they think they got it all figured out. They have him trapped down and everything. But when he wakes up, that sequence of him escaping the lab is pretty awesome. Like,
yeah,
that's
it's not
gruesome.
bad. And it just goes to show you that scientists can't fight predators.
Yeah, but let's do a whole movie in Antarctica. But yeah, it was horrifying. It was the way they did the lighting. He was like grabbing gear, like using it, just brutally killing them, showing how deadly he is without the gear. Yeah. And that was just really awesome. And they did a really good vibe, kind of like the first Alien, but it was more like horror movie kind of a tone instead of like just this predator action. But
well, the thing I hated about like that first sequence was the main guy, the center guy here. I can't even remember his name.
Yeah, who cares?
From the second Tron movie, he goes to like this Hispanic guy, and he's like, "Hey, I want to mail these packages home." And the guy's like, he used like the cloak and everything. And if I'm that Hispanic guy mailing these packages home, like, and I've seen this kind of technology, I might not be sending them home.
Yeah.
Especially that cloak. Like, you could sell that on the black market for a lot of money.
And there was also, I remember there was a line by that guy. He walks in, he's talking to the scientist girl, and they're pointing out like that they describe what they do, and she's like, "Well, why do you call it a predator? That's more like a hunter." And he's like, "I don't know. It sounds cool," or some stupid line like that.
Yeah, she said. I think it was like a predator hunts to survive. This isn't. This isn't hunting to survive. This is a trophy hunter, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, yeah, but predator sounds cool. It's like, shut up. That's not like why didn't Chewie get a medal and so they gave him a medal at the end of this. This isn't like some big debacle where fans for years have been joking about this thing. That was not a fun Easter egg inside joke. That was just stupid. Anyway, The Predator, I'm so glad it bombed. Everyone hated it. And even though it was again, I mentioned this in my discussion, big blockbuster budget, huge opening. Again, Shane Black, that's his name, right? Who wrote it. He was in the first Predator movie. He cares about this franchise, but a lot of people felt like he got all these corporate notes. He's like, you know what? Screw you guys. I'm just gonna put everything in it, and I'm gonna show you how stupid this is. I really think this was a big
sucker
inside. Yeah, I think it was a big inside joke, but. And not a lot of good in this movie, and the biggest thing, this is way worse than just they forgot that predators like the heat. This is like they completely forgot what the predators are, and they are not invaders. So whatever.
Well, and honestly, I think this would rank lower on my list if I considered the AVP movies predator movies.
Okay, that's fair. All right, number 4, Prey. Number 4. Now this is where Lance Carlisle, a friend of the show, this is where he put it in Facebook conversation with us, and I said, "Oh, that's where I put it," and you put it in number 4. That's awesome. So we're not going to do a full review here, but what did you like and didn't like about this movie? You mentioned a little bit on Facebook, but go ahead. But for posterity.
I loved that it was a Native American protagonist and the culture. I hated that the Native American protagonist and culture was misplaced. Like, this is like northwestern Great Plains, which is not where the Comanche existed. I'm sorry. But there was just, I don't know. I felt like the foreshadowing was overly blatant. We're gonna set a trap for the mountain lion, and I looked at my kids and I said, what do you bet that's foreshadowing for what they're gonna do for the predators? Somebody's gonna be bait at some point in time. And I hated the mountain lion. It just doesn't line up with mountain lion kind of tendencies that they're gonna run rather than like
climb and
engage.
stalk on a branch.
Yeah, like they're only gonna fight a
Spoilers.
human if they're like backed into a corner and they've got no other option. Otherwise, they're gone. Like it's a pretty rare occurrence.
I was
for
gonna
them
cut
to
you
be
off,
like,
Nate.
oh,
I just
human.
since this just came out, we do gotta say we'll say spoilers here.
Spoilers,
we might
yes.
spoil a little bit, spoil a little bit. But if you watch this video, you should have invested this hour in starting Prey before watching this or whatever. Okay,
Yes.
go ahead. Yeah, that whole thing with her pouncing her on and stalking her down the limb and everything on the branch, I was like, this is a little over the top. Like this is a little too.
I also felt the bear was like way too aggressive for what a bear would be. You know, like again, I guess if it was, you know, breeding season and it was being very territorial and was like,
there were a lot of salmon in that stream. He likes that fishing spot.
Yeah, and it was bad CGI too. Like both of those animals were bad.
I've been watching I have a really big LED Sony's 88-inch TV. It's fantastic color. That's the best thing about it. It really brings out the crystal clear stuff. And there are shows I watch where I hate my TV, and my son now will watch stuff with me. I've trained him where we'll watch something and like something CGI that looks really good normally comes up, and I'm like, oh, I hate my TV. We just watched Lost, the season 1. I'm introducing him to it. At the end of Lost, there's the first season, there's the smoke coming up. That's like the threat that others are coming and everything. All my life and every other TV I watched, it looked like they just had a pyro smoke, but no, it's crappy CGI smoke. And I'm like, and I can see it. It's like a cartoon on my TV, and I hate it sometimes.
I'm the same way when I watch, because I've got an LED 4K. It's not as big as yours, but it's like really nice and clear.
It's clean. It's okay.
And recently rewatched Independence Day, and when those like F-16s take off, whatever they're flying, I think they're F-16s. It like and also when the big ships come slowly over the city, it's like, wow, that's really poorly superimposed. I don't remember it being that bad when I saw it in the theater.
Yeah. So I mentioned that because I'm very particular, and especially if it's a smaller budget film, when they do animals. I'll agree with you. The bear did not look great, but I think on a regular TV, it'd probably be fine. On the big screen, my TV makes things look worse than they would in the theater. But I thought the mountain lion was okay. I mean, mostly because it's dark. I thought that some of his movements were a little over the top. I was like, well, that's obviously not a real mountain lion. You're not going to train a cat to do that and film that. But the grizzly bear, broad daylight, water in his fur and drenching in blood and all that stuff. It looked fake, but I didn't complain.
They both felt like they were rabid. Like they'd been infected with rabies and were like, bloodthirsty.
Yeah. Now, what I think they did, it was a grizzly, right? If I remember right.
Yeah.
Grizzly bear. I think they want to do that to show the strength and the power, because that's like the most fierce in the land, right? So having him kill it against spoilers and like raise it above his with my arms here,
chuck it into
threw it into where she was hiding, which was weird. But like again, like I mentioned this on Facebook, that's the playing with the blood. The water is pouring off of the corpse onto its camouflage body and blood. The bear, water pouring out of its mouth with the alien green blood. Like that kind of stuff was pretty cool. Like I was like, the fight was a little over top. He like grabbed. It's like what's his name from Street Fighter, Zangief. In his sequence, he like wrestles grizzly bears, and I'm like, okay, and that's what it looked like was Zangief doing his little pile driver. But like and that freaking predator in this movie got beat to hell. He was bleeding in every action sequence. The first movie, he gets shot at one point, and there's one little trail of blood that they follow, and that's kind of it until Arnold goes toe to toe with him.
Yeah.
This alien starts bleeding from a snake. No, the snake didn't bite him. But everything that encountered with it got him to bleed, and there was blood all over. Again, that worked for the camouflage, the visual. Yeah. It was really cool looking, but it really showed that this was a very inexperienced. Either maybe this is early in the predators hunting humans, that they're like trying to get a feel for how we operate, and by the time you get to Arnold, they've learned, don't be on the ground so much. That predator is way more in the trees than this alien. Always walking around.
That predator is so much more nuanced. And I think that's why that's number one for me. Like, it's an actual hunter.
Yeah.
And I'll kind of give examples when we get to that one.
Yeah. But this one, I thought there was a little bit of not immaturity, but like inexperience that you get from the way they've adapted. And we learned that again from Lawrence Fishburne's character in Predators, that they hunt, and it's like they keep coming back to learn how to be better and better. Like they do different methods every time they drop people on that reserve. They learn and change their tactics, which is fascinating. And so you're watching this alien walk around on the ground, getting his feet wet. We'll talk about that in just a second.
It's a training grounds kind of a thing.
Yeah, and this we don't know for sure, because Danny Glover getting the pistol is where we found out they'd been doing this for a long time. This might have been the first mission. I don't know if the trailer specifically said that. The movie didn't.
Well, if we include the AVP canon in this, then like we're
that's right.
Far more ancient. But like, let's just go ahead and throw that out.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. That's a what's the word? Elseworld story.
Yeah,
thing. But like, but this one really did have it messed up a lot. It got hurt a lot. It was like discovering things quite a bit.
It was almost kind of like a juxtaposition with the Native Americans, where she had the opportunity to kind of go on her I don't want to say spirit journey, but like that kind of trial where she's proving herself as a hunter. And I think that's where this predator is at in his experience as well.
Yeah, maybe. So you have an inexperienced predator, and also much more, like I mentioned on Facebook too, primal. He doesn't have the high tech, some of it. I was surprised that he had the net, but that's a primal thing. You have the net. Is primal the right word?
Yeah.
Where he has the net, he had the spear. I didn't expect the spear, because the spear we didn't see in the first Predator, not till the second Predator. So I thought it was developed later. The spear, the bomb, when you thought she was going to blow up the place, it went from
then it was like
boom, 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 to a Predator. The first movie, where they talk about in the second movie that the bomb took out like 4 city blocks or something like that. Like size, like it's like they've come a long way with their technology. And then you get to Predators, where you have like the drones and like all and a lot more complicated stuff that they do. Of course, those ones are a little primal too, but that's what I liked about it. It really did reinvent, to me. It reinvented a concept, or reintroduced a different style of an alien without making him an Orokai. You know what I mean? Or a predator. So like you got to see different perspective. You got to see him messing up, and him trying to figure out when he found the chain, when she was trapped, he was like, he's like, what is this? I didn't know what he was doing. I thought he was going to pull it open and disappear. And this one engaged with humans a lot. They learn very quickly, stay away and just watch for a long time until you're ready to take them out one by one.
Well, and that's a hunter trait. You observe your prey, you watch their patterns, you learn where you can hit them properly, and then, take them out.
You have to, and you have to study what we are. And this one had no real idea, even though it's just, some Native Americans living in a tribe, just, gathering berries, and they go out and hunt an animal. But you mentioned on Facebook, go ahead and talk a little bit more about and I mentioned it too, but you'd mentioned the theme, the predator prey. And I'm an idiot. Like I said, I didn't even realize the connection that this movie was called Prey, and that's play on predator and prey. I'm a moron.
Yeah, I thought that was actually a more clever way to like reintroduce the series too, is call it Prey. But that was one of the things that was almost immediately clear was, you had this little mouse popping through the forest, and then it ate a bug, right? There was a bug climbing on its camouflaged leg or something.
Yes,
and then the rat ate it, and then the snake ate it, and then the predator killed it.
And then and that was really cool. The snake sensed that he was there, but he was camouflaged, and dropped the mouse, darted at him, and grabbed it with the. Oh, that was cool.
When I saw that, and the rattlesnake took the rat, I looked at my kids and I said, "There's always a bigger fish."
And for some reason, the whatever it was on his leg, getting eaten by a mouse, getting eaten by a snake, getting killed by the predator, that was 4 steps to demonstrate that.
Yeah.
But in Star Wars, the bongo or whatever gets grabbed by a fish, and then it gets eaten, and then it gets eaten, and then it gets eaten, and you just want to like punch the freaking screen. Doing it once is fine, but doing it multiple times, like 3 or 4 times, like I'm like, you guys are idiots. And then they did the same thing in Star Trek, but that, if I remember right, in Star Trek 2009, when Kirk's on the ice island and he's looking for hunting predators, finding the alien temple, and he's like running before Spock saves him. If I remember, there was a creature
chasing him, and then there's a bigger
one that comes up.
Yeah.
It's fun. It's fun, but for some reason, doing it 3 times in a row on Naboo did not work. But whatever. This was cute, but this had a concept. There wasn't just, it was for no reason. The predator prey
fed into the theme.
Yeah.
To show that like even the predators are prey.
Yes.
And the prey also has the opportunity, like with the snake, if it were to bite a human, like there you go. You're the prey, even though you're not eaten.
Yeah.
They also did the theme with the wolf scene when the wolf was like chasing the rabbit and then ran into the predator.
Yeah, that was like literally ran into. And that was really cool because he was like watching. And my thought about that when that was happening, I was like, the coyote or wolf, whatever it was it a wolf? Probably a wolf.
I think it was a wolf, but
whatever.
It's weird because it didn't have a pack.
Nate, you can tell you're an educator. This kind of stuff gets you. I'm just ignorant. I'm like, oh, that was awesome. Anyway, as it's chasing, I was thinking to myself, and this goes along with the theme that makes it work. I was like, it doesn't have a machine gun or a knife or a bow and arrow or something. Like, how is it going to determine that this is something to kill? Because it's not about being hungry. It doesn't eat it. And and that's why it's interesting when he's watching it for a while. And the rabbit gets away, doesn't it? I don't think the coyote. I think he just runs into it and then
grabs the rabbit. It's caught up to the rabbit and grabs it, and then runs into the.
It, and then
which was another thing that bothered me. A rabbit. That is one of the ways that wolves hunt rabbits. Is one will chase them, but it steers them into the pack, into like an ambush.
Like a velociraptor.
That's kind of what I was expecting. I was like, oh, it's going to chase it into this pack, and then the predator's going to have to fight off a pack of wolves.
Now, that would have been cool.
That would have been
way awesome. Yeah, but now it just, there's no threat there. But that was kind of cool. Like, chase him, jumped up, he slapped or slashed at him, and then it landed and started growling, and then suddenly his guts just drop out his bottom and falls over. Like, okay, that was fun. And it did get a bite, if I remember. Yeah, it did. Yeah. They got a bite on him. Bit his leg.
Yeah, and that's probably the point where he's like, oh, this is something that I need to kill.
Yeah.
Otherwise it's going to continue attacking me because it obviously is a predator.
Yeah. I mentioned the other fun part. I think it was supposed to be a joke, and I laughed because it was great, but it's the part where they, like in any of these other movies, there's going to be that moment where they see it. Like in the first movie where they saw it, he's like, the jungle had eyes or whatever. And he saw it and he looked at me and then he starts opening fire and Max going crazy with the Gatling gun or whatever. And then they all come in having no idea what he's shooting at. They just all join in and start unloading, just unload and just level the land. And then he's sitting there with no ammo. He's just like shell shocked. And then they stop, and then again, the evolution of the hunting, Billy, the Indian, goes out and he's like, we hit nothing. And in this one, there's that moment where he's like, comes with those three Russian guys or whatever. Russian, what were they?
French trappers.
Yeah, French trappers, right? They turn. I was thinking Russian because I recently watched Maverick, the movie with Mel Gibson, and he has the Russian hunter that's visiting. Anyway, they all shoot. He has his shield, which was cool. His shield was pretty cool. And he turns and looks at him.
Jackson shield.
Yeah. Well, I thought of Iron Man. In the first Iron Man, he has the little...
Yeah, Iron Man has it. But it's only like a quarter of a shield that pops.
Yeah,
out.
Just a little... Anyway, yeah, so they shoot, and then they look at him, and then they start... like all three of them, and I'm just like, oh, you guys are idiots. You guys are not equipped to have that moment. And it was funny, and I think it was supposed to be funny. That's the kind of a scene that I thought would have been brilliant by yourself. Like Shane Black would have written a scene like that. That's great.
Yeah.
Anyway, so it had those little moments because that's a total Predator move where you have everyone freaking out. The train, the subway train, and all the Jamaicans in the actually like every action scene in the second movie, they're all unloading in an empty room, and this one they all and they shoot once and then they're that was great.
I don't have rapid fire. That hasn't been invented yet.
And maybe that's why the Predators stayed away for a couple hundred years to let them. These guys aren't ready for us.
Well, that's what would have made the Native Americans superior, is they could rapid fire arrows, just boom, boom, one after the other.
Sure. I liked that stuff. I liked the stuff with her and her brother. I was confused at first. The triangular light, the 3 dots, how it started splitting around. I was like,
what? Splitting, yeah.
I was like, what's it doing? I was like, because I was confused. I was like,
cool.
Yeah, and then it shot the darts instead of the huge, that cool energy projectile.
Yeah,
that was cool. And then she figured it out, and I was thinking to myself, like, they weren't responding to when they saw it. They were like, "Oh, that's weird." I thought they were trying to like flick it off like a bug or something.
Right.
But she figured it out. He's like, "I got him." It was whoever it was, and she's like, "No, it's got us." And they start running. That Velociraptor from the second Jurassic Park movie where they're running in the high grass, and then you see the raptors sneaking in. Like, that was pretty cool. So like I said, visuals, I said this on Facebook, visuals is what really sold this movie, and it was fun action. It was entertaining. I'm tone deaf to accents, wigs, and historical inaccuracies. I never that stuff never gets to me because I don't even see it. I'm so oblivious to that stuff. When people complain about a movie about someone's wig or their accent was inconsistent, I'm like, I'm an idiot.
I don't really care about accents or things like that. And you're right. It was visually, it was a very nice movie.
Mm-hmm. Especially compared to the big blockbusters that we had recently. Like, this was good. This was very good. Fun stuff. But at the end of the movie, she kills it. And I guess we still got to talk about camouflage, but the bait and switch thing where she was tied up and she used the bear trap, and she had that little story about, I saw a beaver got stuck with his arm and it bit off and saw the water was rising too fast, it off its leg, and you thought she was going to snap his arm. I thought she was going to try and sacrifice her arm, but that her brother was going to yank it and snap his arm. But no, she snapped the cord, and she's like, I'm smarter than Beaver. I'm like, oh, that's awesome. You're seeing her figure stuff out. And then you're like, well, the Predator's also smarter than a Beaver. It's not going to fall for these traps. And then when it goes and they all start shooting, that shootout was that's the one that was over the top for me, was when they all came out and it was like that Willow scene where they all stormed the castle.
You know, when they originally captured her and had her in a little cage in their camp, there wasn't that many people in their camp. There were all these people that came up out of the holes, and there were the people that got killed that were on the horseback, and like there were all these people, and then she like just kind of casually walks out of the battle zone.
Well, it was letting her,
and it's like populated with people who are running around helter skelter, and it's like, where did all these people come from?
Yeah. But I'm okay with that because it makes for the action. I thought the same thing in the last Rambo movie when like the 3 cars full of terrorists drug lords came up from Mexico to his ranch, and it shows like 3 cars pull up, and then he kills like 40 guys in the tunnels.
Yes.
I'm like, that's all right. It was awesome. But this one, it wasn't. That fight scene was just over the top.
Yeah.
And his jumping from trees like 100 feet. Stuff like that. I mean, you've seen them jump like from tree to tree and over cars and stuff in other movies. He jumped way too far in this one.
Well, he ran way too fast too. Like in other Predator movies, like when you described the Velociraptor scene, like he comes on them fast.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't feel
you
like
do see them
any
move.
of the other
They're
Predators move that fast.
Yeah, you're right. So that's inconsistent. That kind of stuff I do notice. Like those are inconsistencies. Continuity I do get, but not historical inaccuracies. I'm just too dumb to notice that stuff. But let's talk about camouflage real quick. So sorry. You mentioned that on Facebook, that in the bear scene.
Yeah.
The bear scene has stayed up.
I want to say he jumps and splashes down in the water.
He does.
After the bear scene, isn't it? I don't know. Maybe it's just preceding the bear scene.
I think it's when she I can't remember which scene it was, but there's a scene where she's in the water and he like walks through the water. and it may have been the bear or after the bear. Either way, the bear scene is in water because he's like pouring off with the blood. But
yeah,
I feel like when he lifted that thing, enough of the water would have been coming down off of the bear. That's a big body, a lot of fur that's dripping a lot of water. And if he lifts it up like that, it's going to be pooling down like it was. That
Plus
much water should have at least shorted it.
Bear in the water.
Right. Yeah. He was like grabbing it and everything. It would have been getting on whatever circuitry activates or that is what gets ruined when it gets shorted out. So I think that would have been a great moment. She's already been onto it for a little while. That would have been the moment that would have been a reveal for her to see it just flicker to see what it really was. But in the first movie, he jumps into the lake and he's like completely submerged. Then he walks out and then it shorts out. The second movie, I just watched it today. I was trying to pay attention.
Mm-hmm.
There's the scene where he kills the drug guy. Yeah, there's a sprinkler system that goes off. But earlier he fights. It's raining hard, and he's fighting. Or when he kills the witch guy, the voodoo guy, King Willie or whatever.
King Willie, yeah. Whatever his name is.
But I don't think he didn't really see him, but he's walking through the rain puddles, and it does flicker. That's enough water that this movie he should have flickered, and he did flicker when he first landed, but it didn't like stay shorted out.
No.
The Predator, I don't remember the shorting out in Predators. AVP doesn't matter because that's all
they never hit any water in Predators.
Well, they fell into the water, but it didn't.
But
they didn't chase out. They stayed up there. Yeah. And then by the time you get the Predator in there, they're already revealed. I'm trying to remember. Was there one I missed? Oh, the Predator or Predators doesn't matter. I wish they just numbered these. But this one,
we wouldn't have clever names like Prey.
That's true. That's fair. And this one would have been like 0.5 instead of. Well, actually, I think this would be 2.5 because this is more of a prequel to the second movie than the first movie, but it doesn't matter unless this was like Billy's great.
Right. I was thinking the same thing.
Really?
He's a descendant of Billy, and that's why Billy kind of has that natural intuition.
Yeah.
Predator.
Some family story that he's like, "Where's something watching us, Major?" He was onto it from the beginning, but that was just his. I'm a spiritual Native American.
Well,
anyway,
he's a true hunter too.
Yes, he is. Yeah, he's the tracker in the group. Anyway, this one, I didn't get hung up on the water because it's been a little bit inconsistent, but I felt like there was always a lot more water pouring on him when it shorted out, and it was always temporary. It didn't ruin the gear. But I think that moment with the bear would have been a good moment to do that reveal for her.
Yeah,
but they did a lot
reveal.
And then him like walk off, and she's like, "What the f am I looking at?" And you can't argue that's even including the wolf aliens in the Predators movie. This was the ugliest Predator we've ever seen. It was like, I thought of the movie The Mask with Cher. I was like, this is the Mask character. Maybe that's why he sucked. He's like I don't want to use the wrong word here.
Elephantitis.
he's the. I gotta be sensitive because you work with special needs kids too. I'm gonna be nice. Anyway, but maybe he was just less awesome to. So he's like, go practice on Earth. They don't know who we are, and that's why he got beat up so much.
Who knows? Maybe from Predator standards, he's the handsome one.
Yeah, that's probably true. It's like that Unsolved Mysteries episode, or not Unsolved Mysteries. What's that show?
Stranger Things, right?
No, not that.
Yeah.
Oh, it was the one in the 80s. You know what I'm thinking of. Crap, not Unsolved Mysteries. The with the library and all those little short stories. There was brilliant stuff. I can't even think of any examples. With Burgess Meredith when he loses his glasses when the end of the world and then he can't
Twilight Zone?
Yes, that's it. Twilight Zone. But there was that Twilight Zone. Was it? Yeah, Twilight Zone episode where they had that lady and she was like all wrapped up and they pull off and she's like this beautiful model and the doctors and stuff like, we're so sorry, you look so ugly. And then you realize that they're all weird. Yeah, you're right. Maybe the alien, this is like the hottest one they've ever had. But it's ugly. The Mask too, and he had a big old huge mouth, weird mouth. But this one, the way they did the skull thing, that it was like a wood or whatever.
It was some kind of like taking the wolf predator from Predators that had like the jawbone on it, and applying it
from
across
things
the
they've killed.
helmet.
It may have been a trophy of some kind that became a headgear. And
Because
but
I mean,
it
it has
had
the technology
laser
in it,
built
so I
into
think
it.
it was
Yeah.
affixed to his
Yeah.
mask.
Yeah, so it's kind of cool. So again, it shows the primitive nature of this predator. Again, really well done. I think
Yeah.
even the story, I think for me it works. But it's easier for me to work because I don't pay attention to a lot of that stuff. Did you notice? I'll just say one more thing before we move on. We'll kind of go faster, but because now we're getting to the ones that everyone knows. But where we have less complaints. But the at the end credits, it shows that how they do the little pictograph things that they did, their little Native American art or whatever, sort of. It felt like the end of Wall-E where they were like showing the history. So it shows the story that happened in this movie. But then at the very end, I don't know if you caught this, when she walks in, because then Hulu comes up and says, "Oh, what do you want to watch next?" And I had to get that crap off the HUD so I could go back to watch the cartoons. Because I learned from Rambo, the last Rambo movie, if you watch through the credits, there's little teasers at the end of some of those. At Rambo, it shows him get up and get off on the horse when he rides off. That wasn't in the movie. It was just it wasn't like a end of credits scene. It wasn't an end of credits. It was just in that little animation they're doing to show you the story. And then they show you one little secret panel of that style that if you're paying attention, you can see it. But it's not like a thing. Anyway, with this one, it shows her go back. She has the alien. She drops the head, or she has the blood on her and everything. And then the next shot is it shows the ship come back. Now, this is what makes that interesting is because the aliens have to get custody of that gun again for Predator 2. Because she has the gun. She shows it to her chief. And when I thought the gun was weird, it was like, it wasn't even really critical in the kill, but it doesn't matter. It was there. And then she looked at it, and it was the same shot as Predator 2, and Danny Glover looked at it, and the aliens gave that to him as a trophy for killing their predator, but they don't have the gun. She has it. So potential sequel.
Well, I mean, I feel like the Predators are prolific enough that piece of technology, it would be like giving, a Colt 45 to somebody. There's a lot of Colt 45s. So, maybe this is kind of where that tradition came from. You kill a predator, here's your sweet gun.
Also, the sweet gun. Also, this gun does represent potentially the first earthly kill of a predator.
Yeah.
The first time a human killed a predator, this is something to signify that. Here, you just killed one of us on our own ship. You can take this,
Out of all of the predator spears that there have been, that predator spear was the coolest. Like, it could be like taken apart, and there was like a mace on one end and the slashing part. Yeah.
After we watched those, I didn't notice anything unusual about it. I thought he kept breaking their spears. I couldn't figure out what was happening. And he goes like, I didn't like that where he does the little baseball bat twirl thing. I was like, I don't like the predator going, I was like,
a little over the top.
Yeah. I was like, he's not Leonardo. Like, that's not they're not showmen, it's all about honor. But anyway. All right. So that's how I felt, by the way, about the end of Obi-Wan. The same thing when Darth Vader when he like took his lightsaber and threw it or whatever, and he put his away or whatever, he was like, come at me unarmed. I'm like, that is not a Darth Vader thing. He is way too cool for that. Even though he shows off when he fights one hand and stuff, but that's just him playing with you. He's not like, here, I'm going to give you the weapon and you come at me. That's not
right.
Darth Vader. And that's
I love
not
the sequence where the Inquisitor came at him and he didn't even use his lightsaber. He was just like, womp, womp, womp.
It's cool. Right.
Like, you don't have the power to come at me.
And that's because it's not a threat. But to be already engaged in a lightsaber fight and then be like, okay, let's take this to the next level, and he gives her the weapon, I'm like, no, he doesn't screw around like that. He has nothing to prove to her. She's far below him to do that.
Right.
So same thing with the predator twirling. I was like,
yeah, it's a flourish that was unnecessary and didn't feel right for the character.
Yeah, agreed. All right, number 3, Predator 2. Okay, what'd you like about this movie?
Okay, so there's a little, I feel like it's an Easter egg. Danny Glover's captain from the Lethal Weapon series is one of his sergeants in Predator 2, like right at the beginning where they're rushing in to take out the Colombian drug lords. And I thought, that's a funny little nod.
I didn't know that.
Now the roles have been reversed and he's giving him commands.
The guy from Die Hard, but that guy was in every movie. the guy with the little divots all over his face, that guy.
No, the captain from Lethal Weapon.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with Lethal Weapon. That's a confession. But go ahead and keep talking. I'm gonna look him up.
All right. I think it took the series in a different direction. I didn't feel like it was awesome, but it was kind of like, okay, in the first movie he was hunting in a jungle. Now we're gonna have him hunting in a concrete jungle, and so I thought that was fun. And I don't know,
Good point.
Danny Glover getting a hold of the Predator technology, like in this little picture, how he's got a little disc thing, like that never happened with Arnold. He never got a hold of any of the tech, so it was kind of cool to see that turned against the Predator, that he was smart enough to do that. And like you said, the inside of the ship was really cool, that kind of reveal.
That it was hiding, that the ship was underneath the street, that he could walk right into it. The reveal of the trophy room. That's a big deal. The trophy.
And there's
display.
a xenomorph skull in there too.
Big Easter egg. And that got everyone thirsty from salivating for this movie that sucked. But just it was imagination.
The skull.
Yeah, exactly. And again, I don't know for sure, but I'm sure they would have had to have licensing permission to show the skull even. So there had to be some collaboration at some point.
I want to say they're both done by 20th Century Fox. So I don't know.
But they, it may have been easier to throw that in there, but then to actually make a movie with titles and everything, because they don't reference Alien, because that'd be a weird thing for him to say, "Oh, Alien," because it's all aliens.
It's just an Easter egg.
Yeah, they. But you get to see that the skull, and he sees. You see it earlier in the show, because I just watched it last night / today, where after he kills Willie, he polishes. You see him polishing the skull. And he puts it on there
with a buffer and everything. He's like,
high gloss, and drain the blood out and everything. Is really cool.
Yeah,
and that's a new thing. I don't remember. We saw him rip the skull out. And he did polish Billy's, because you saw Billy and you saw him.
He had the spray that ate all of the flesh off of it.
Yeah. Oh, in this one, in Prey, you see
the first one,
but you see it with the wolf completely disintegrating the fur and everything with the wolf skull and puts it on. And then you see in the first movie, he puts the skull in the collection, and you see Mac where he got shot through the face. You see he has a big missing part of his skull. So you're like, there they all are. You're like, oh, that's crazy. And you get an idea for him hanging from trees and all that stuff. And there was a little bit about this in this movie that made it a little grotesque. But then the first one was just kind of set to the tone. But this one was kind of like, what the? It was like,
I think also in Predator 2, the Predator didn't know which one to hunt most. Like there was like this gang war, and so he's just taking out everybody.
He's having fun.
Yeah.
He's like a dog chasing birds in the field. And that's why, the scene on the subway, as I was watching that, I was like, why is he hunting the guy's partner? And then they have the scene where all the guys pull out guns on the guy in the subway. And then he's like, oh, you get back. And like everyone in the city is armed in LA.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, oh, that's why he kills them all. Because I thought he was just trying to take out the guy's team. But no, he was following them.
That subway scene also introduces a certain level of humanity to the character, because he picks up the one lady and sees that she's pregnant. And he's like, it gives that feeling of he doesn't kill. Predators don't kill innocents. They only kill things that are challenging to hunt.
Yes. And in the first movie, you had him kick the gun out of the girl's hands, and it says, no sport. He says don't start shooting at it. Drop the gun because it's no sport. And then there's the next level is introduced in this one. Again, this is them establishing who these characters are. And then you're telling me that they're suddenly going to be like alien invaders? No, this is not their thing.
No, that doesn't work.
Right. That's what makes them special. And that's why that's what makes it so you're not scared for humans when Predator's around. That scene in the graveyard where he's going to see his buddy, which got buried instantly in like a day. He goes they're like showing on the news like the 21 gun salute and all that stuff. I'm like, he just died in the last scene. Like what? Anyway. But he goes and you see the kid. Candy. Yeah, the little kid runs out there and the kid goes out there with a little toy gun, and your first thought is, oh no, he's gonna kill this kid. And he goes out there, he starts shooting, and he sees the Predator, and the Predator looks at him, like, startles him. He looks at him, and then he says, "Want some candy?" And like when you first see that, you're like, this kid is toast. Like,
yeah, because it's got like the target that goes straight to his head.
Him, and then looks at the gun, but there's no. I guess he saw there's a plastic gun with no heat signatures.
Like, oh, this
it's some kid, and he was just kind of intrigued by that. But again, that curiosity of they're curious. They like to hunt. That's their way of life. But they're also interested. They're curious about what we are, what we do, because they watch us. The first movie, remember in the first movie, after they took out the big the base, and then the one guy Max steps on the scorpion, and then the predator walks up and he picks up the scorpion. He's just looking at it. Yeah, and he's just like, it's just they're curious creatures.
Fascinating biology.
Yeah, exactly. And he's like, why did this one kill this one? And he's like, turn around. And he's like hearing all that stuff. And it's like setting the tone, but you're seeing the heat signature. That's why that movie is so great, is the exposition and really setting everything up. But you're seeing the heat signature stuff and just figuring stuff out, but they're not just brutal killers. And they're definitely not invaders. Oh, I hate that movie. Anyway, so I agree with you. Him getting the technology, introducing new technology. The net was introduced in this one. The glaive thing that I call the glaive because of the movie Krull that he has in this one. Seeing the ship, the trophy room, a different med kit. Each movie, if they do a med kit scene, is always a little bit different. And that's my favorite part of the movie, is seeing the technology for their med kit.
Yeah.
And this one, he has to like make a powder, and that guy's in someone's bathroom, like breaking the porcelein, and he curls up with his gel, and he's like, and all that stuff.
Well, and the med kit part is important because it shows that the predators can be hurt, that they don't just roll in and just like kill whatever they want. They're hunting things that can hurt them. Yes,
you're right. And it's also a survival thing, that they're equipped, they're ready, but they're vulnerable. And I hated it's one thing I didn't like in Prey, is when she says the line, if it bleeds, we can kill it. It's an Easter egg concept, but like, don't say it word for word like that. It's like in the new Maverick movie. I hated when he said, talk to me, Goose. And then they said it like 5 times throughout the movie. And then the kid said it. I was like, why the hell is Rooster saying what Maverick's traumatized phrase was? Talk to me, Dad, or whatever. I'm like, shut up. You guys are, that's not.
I read a fan theory that said that that the entire movie after the plane broke up at Mach 10 was Maverick's dream. Where it's like he was, before he fully died, the life flashing before your eyes kind of a thing, that that he was accomplishing the things that he failed at throughout his life. The relationship with Penny, the Goose Kid.
Yeah, that's interesting.
The Gosling.
But I haven't reviewed that movie yet because I'm so conflicted on what to say, but it's going to come when that comes out. Anyway,
I enjoyed it, but it definitely didn't feel very Top Gun-y to me.
No. And this is all I'll say. What I've told everyone that's like, oh, it's the best movie, blah, blah, blah. I said, okay, answer this question honestly. If there was no such thing as the movie Top Gun, would this have been a good movie? The answer is no. It's not a great movie. It's only great.
It still probably would have been a popcorn flick.
Yeah, it's an entertaining movie.
But I don't think it would be like breaking theater records.
Right, exactly. It was not that great of a movie. The first one was. Standalone,
there's a huge nostalgia factor on that one.
Yes, and it's crippling without it. Anyway, Predator 2 was not. Predator 2 introduced a lot of new concepts and things, and also, the other cool part was the scanner when it was infrared. When it figured out it was something was up, and he like starts going through different channels of vision. That was awesome. Seeing the different perspectives of what it can see.
Showed the limitations of the human knowledge. They're like, it sees only in thermal vision because it has really poor sight otherwise. Like, no, it's got different frequencies.
And again, in Prey, it wouldn't have had that technology because it was just a mass now, but they've developed that again through hunting different things and problem solving different worlds or whatever. Really cool. So it really did expand the lore of
one of the things I didn't care for in Predator 2 was like Danny Glover. He's an amazing actor, but he just doesn't come off as like the uber badass guy.
He's not an action hero.
You're right. He's
a cop.
He's the fat cop. Yeah. He's not the elite cop. He's the detective.
Yeah. He needs Mel Gibson by his side to do the brutal stuff. I agree with
he
that
pulled it
completely.
off. He did a good job.
It's fine, yeah. And this movie is what introduced me to Danny Glover. And then early 90s, I started seeing him in things like Angels in the Outfield and all that goofy stuff. And I was like, oh, this is who he is. And by the time I got to watch more Predator movies like Predators and stuff, I was in more action movies as again, growing up in my maturity and understanding what was good and bad about film. It wasn't great casting, at least the way they played off. Well, I'm not going to say that. It was fine because they do things like he's afraid of heights and they show that kind of stuff. He is kind of got some weaknesses, but to go toe to toe with the Predator, he's not going to win.
Which is, I think, why they like gave him some Predator technology, because that was the only thing that equaled the play.
Yes, I'll agree with that. Because even in Predators, when you see the one guy at the end and has mud all over him like Arnold and stuff, like, yeah, he's no Arnold. And it was fun. The scene was fine, but you're looking at him. And they made him look too much like Arnold,
great, but not Arnold.
But don't make him look like Arnold, because he's not like Arnold.
No, he needs to be set apart.
Yeah, I will say this: as I just watched it, Predator 2. It's cheesy. The acting, it's a very 80s like cop action movie. So
I remember riots in LA, but I don't remember drug wars being like that.
Oh, that's another point though. And let's talk about the leading into Predators, as you put number 2, Predators. There's a timeline here that when Predator 2 came out, that wasn't in 97, but it took place in 97, if I remember. They were projecting forward a few years, so it was like in the future.
I don't think
because they have like kind of like spacey guns, and the guy has like his Commodore 64 looking big boxy computer, but it's showing like weird audio and all this kind of stuff. Like it's supposed to be like a little more high tech. Their cop gear and stuff like that. The riots,
when
the protests.
just pulled out his Desert Eagle. I was like, "Holy crap, dude's just packing a 50 caliber pistol!" What?
He's like in his trunk. He's like, too small. Kind of stuff. But like it was like shooting forward a little bit. But then you go into Predators. Now I'm so ignorant to military tech that I thought these guys were all kind of like special advanced weapons, but I guess they were actual military gear.
Yeah, that automatic shotgun that Adrian Brody had, this came out after Metal Gear Solid 4, and that was like one of my favorite guns in that game. Was like you could just take out anything, just and so I was like really excited about that gun. One of the things that they also kind of had that nostalgia factor was they brought in the minigun again, the Spetsnaz minigun. Mm-hmm. And while I love that minigun, I loved it from Predator 1. It's so impractical. Not just like carrying this massive hulking hunk of steel around, but the recoil is going to knock that guy right on his rear end.
Yeah, that was a thing with Arnold having it, and actually in Terminator 2, when he's up in the office, he's shooting down at the cop cars. That actually is the exact same prop from Predator 1. Like he's handled that gun before. It's a little fun fact for you.
Good old Jesse Ventura, huh?
Yeah. But I agree with you. And for him lugging it around, that was the biggest problem for me, was him lugging it around. But I was like, it doesn't make sense. But they had a fun time throwing different characters in there, which again shows the extensive research that they've done pulling criminals, including a psycho doctor who doesn't have a weapon, dropping him in there. It's like they've been researching and watching a long time. These are not morons. They've been paying attention. That they pull them, drop them in the game reserve, and they just hunt them and let them figure stuff out, and then they just adapt. The girl
also should have been like a massive red flag for the rest of the group. Like all the rest of them are like hunter predator kind of humans, and they're like, this guy doesn't fit, or does he?
Yeah. I thought that was a really good twist. That was really well done at the end where he turned, and casting for what's his name, the guy from
Topher Grace.
He did really good. Like, because he's everyone knows him as a fun, charming guy. Even that's why he was fine in Spider-Man 3. There's a lot of other issues with it, but his performance until he became Venom was fine. The jealousy and all that stuff, he was very good. and he's charismatic and charming. And then you turn him into the psycho killer. He's like,
Yeah.
I don't fit in at home. I fit in here. I want to stay here.
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, without these guys, you're not gonna last 10 minutes in this,
No.
this place. But anyway, but the samurai guy, the Korean guy who was a criminal, and he was like missing fingers. That awesome line where he's like,
I don't talk because
he's like,
I talk too much.
Yeah, you talk too much. He's like, well, he's like, because you talk too much. Yeah, he's like,
yeah, I got my
whatever the line was,
because I mouthed off to the wrong person.
Yep. That Mexican guy that was into the Machete movies that I've never watched.
Yes,
that's what
Danny
they were.
Trejo.
That's his name. Okay. He's always in stuff. I've never seen any movies where he was the main guy. He has them, but I've just never watched any of them. But he was really good, and he's that whole thing.
He was the voice for Boots in the live action Dora the Explorer. I've never seen it, but I knew that he did the voice, and I was like, that's so like off brand.
Well, you have Arnold and doing movies like Twins and Kindergarten Cop and stuff like that.
Jingle All the Way.
Yeah.
With Anakin Skywalker as his son.
Annie. Yeah, little Jake Lloyd. You know what he said about that? Jake Lloyd in an interview before episode 1 came out, he said, I laughed when I found out I got to work with Arnold Schwarzenegger. I cried when I found out I got to be in Star Wars. I'm like, oh, and then we saw what he did in Star Wars. No, I mean, he was fine. I don't have Jake Lloyd issues in episode 1.
No, he was a fine little
problem.
Yeah. The problem is that's where they started the story. We didn't need the first appearance of Anakin and Obi-Wan.
Yeah. And he was fine. And you want him to be charming and fun and charismatic, but you want to be a likable, cute little kid to have the transition to Darth Vader, but the direction, the dialogue, and the set, everything else was wrong about it. But anyway, okay. So Predators, I like the tone. I like it went back to the roots. It felt more like Predator 1 than any other movie did. They didn't know what was going on. It's a cool concept, and how they slowly introduced that they're on an alien world. We didn't figure that out. When she shows the compass, she's like, "We have a bigger problem." And she shows the thing in the water and starts swimming or whatever, and it's like, "Oh, what's going?"
And I think we get to the horizon, and there's like all these planets and stuff.
Yeah,
like, oh, and
so
it was like it was a Jaws reference. I thought he's like, "We're gonna need a bigger plan."
Yeah, he said. What did he say? He said something.
Oh, you cut out again.
Oh, I did. He had some kind of line. Wait till you're back on. He had some kind of a line where he was like, "We're gonna need to figure this out." And then they went. There you are.
There we are.
Yeah, he had some kind of a line right there where he said something like that, like we're gonna have to rethink our plan or something like that. But yeah, they walked and they found that cliff edge, and like we are not on Earth. Like, and that I can't even imagine the hopelessness of that feeling.
Right?
It's like it was really well done. And
we're not gonna get home.
Yeah. Like we don't even know. We're barely able to survive what we've been, where we are and everything, and let alone we're not even on Earth. Way out of our limits. But anyway, that was really well done. That revealed to them, and then the way it was shot, and then the spectacle looked great on my TV. The color, the big planets, everything.
I like the concept of the wolf predators and the regular predators too. And
well, and that's the other reveal when they get to the camp. And you see that side profile of the dreadlocks hanging down. They're not dreadlocks, but you know what I mean. Yeah. And then the camera looks up, and you see it's a tied up predator. You're like, "What the hell is going on?" You don't really know. And it's not just, and you just know because the movie's called The Predator or Predators, and you saw the movie poster as a predator. But yeah, when they finally reveal that it's a different type of predator from Lawrence Fishburne's character, whatever his name was.
And it's like some weird race war between.
Yeah. He's like, he says the difference between like a dog and a wolf.
Yeah.
And they're a little more savage and a lot more brutal, but it's.
And we got to see that when they cut the predator down there in that final sequence, and they went and
he grabbed his throat immediately, and you're like, dude. Yeah,
well,
it was tense.
The wolf predator and the dog predator like went at it, and you know it was a good fight until he was decapitated.
When the moment that the predator, it's kind of like T2 when you see Arnold is like the good guy in the movie, and that was like, I mean, everyone knew that from the trailers because they ruined it, but like if you didn't know that going in and you saw, and he says, "Come with me if you want to live," that moment where she's like,
yeah.
terrified of
Well,
him
and
coming.
even at the mall when John
Yeah.
Connor's escaping and sees him and he's like, oh my God.
Yeah. They play it so well.
Yeah.
But you're getting this reveal and there's a twist. But when you drop and then you have the alien and then he starts gearing up, putting on his crab, you're like, yeah, here we go. And you get so excited. And he has a pretty good death. Like there's some good action where he cuts the guy's head off.
I was kind of sad because I thought, Adrian Brody was partners with him and like might have like, backstabbed the other alien or predator to like, give him a little bit more life. But
yeah. It was really well done, and there was some cool the little formations, the little predator dogs, that sequence where they almost died from those they were a little OP. I felt
they reminded me of hellhound versions of the dogs from Willow.
I'll take that. Yeah, those things had a name. I don't remember what they were. I can't remember.
I can't remember either.
They have a name anyway. All that stuff. I think the tone, it was just great recapturing and reinventing a new concept with the concept of it. It's not just hunting a guy in the jungle that's boring now, but hunting criminals, figuring stuff out, watching them on the journey of learning and problem solving. That's the fun part of these movies, not alien invasion. Anyway,
right. It was a back to basics kind of a thing.
Yeah. And then the ship blew up. I love that too. The wolf, he comes in, he sees it, and he's like, they're not getting out of here. And then you're like, oh, they're screwed. And then they have to fight it using the drugs and the mud and all that stuff, the heat signature. That's one thing I would mention about Prey. I thought that was very clever how they played with the heat signature stuff with the little yellow leaves. It was a new way of doing that, dropping the body temperature. When he comes up on the guy and he sees him and he thinks he's dead, the guy that had his leg off, and he's playing dead because he's drugged, and he sees his body, but then he steps on him and he and then he kills him. That's another funny moment. Anyway,
if
here
you look at some of the other Predator movies, like even the dead dudes have heat signatures of some level, but I don't. That was kind of one of the things that I was like, well, wouldn't he have some kind of heat signature?
And it'd be like a little warmer by the blood, by the wound of his or his foot that was cut off.
And the fact that he was able to like make it back to the camp on one foot and hold the girl at gunpoint, and then like can't get up and on one foot and move away when the predator comes in.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Oh well. So this one, a lot of fun stuff. The heat signature. You had the 3 different characters. They all had a different. One was the dog whistler. One was had the drone bird looking thing. And the other one was just the other one. I don't remember. They had their different bones, like you mentioned before, different cool stuff. Like, oh, these are interesting. And these are a different, like you said, they said is a different kind of a breed, a different kind of a species. That if these guys, now if that would have been different in Predators, if these guys landed on Earth, I could see that turning into a savage, like we just
I don't think Arnold would have made it out of that one.
No. But I'm saying they would need the Predator, instead of making an Orokai Predator, you already have an advanced kind of a more, maybe not scientifically advanced or intelligence, but more brutal, savage creature, stronger too.
Yeah.
Put them in there. That way would have been some reason to have Predator being hunted by predators or the Predator. That would have been a little different, that they could have made that work, but not an alien invasion, completely rewriting who they are. This one did really good. The twist, and then at the end where all you see is the parachutes dropping down, you're like, well, round 2 or whatever it is, like, let's do a sequel.
Which never came.
I would be fine if they did another sequel of that movie, and they still could have, and that they're still surviving on that planet. Oh, that's crazy. And the stories from Lawrence Fishburne's character too, how he talked about, I travel, he's like talking to himself, he's all crazy. I travel for like 8 summers or something like that. Let me tell you, there's no end to the preserve. And then he like came back and he's like been survived on the ship and all that stuff. That reveal of his character, the turnaround stuff that you're like, oh, that's Easter eggs done right, by the way. Not if it bleeds, we can kill it. Shut up. Don't just say that. Anyway, it was really good, very entertaining, and a lot of fun, interesting characters, and then learning to work together. I really like that movie, and it holds up. It's been like a decade plus, and it still holds up really well.
Yeah, it's
All right.
unfortunate that they did the craptastic The Predator after they did
Yeah.
something so successful like this.
Yeah. And I don't know what the box office numbers were, but like everyone loved this movie. They were like, "You guys did it. Thank you." Now the names are weird because you have the Predator. No, you have the Predator. No, just Predator. Predator to Predators. The Predator. It's like, yeah, you guys shut up. Just you guys need to be. You need to do.
Yeah, you had it right the first time when you went from Predator to Predator 2.
Yeah. Anyway, all right. Big surprise. Predators, you're number 1. All right. Is there anything wrong with this movie? Is there anything bad about this movie?
There's a lot of toxic masculinity, and they like to shoot from the hip. There is no accuracy in the way they shoot their guns.
Yeah, that one shot where Arnold has that gun and he's like holding with one hand. It's like, okay.
Yeah.
He's just staring around.
They did that in the Adrian Brody one too. Like at first he had his shotgun up like that, and then like they just started shooting it at nothing. And he brought it down to the hip and was like, and well, so that's always bothered me with.
That's
with
a Contra video games. You know, you gotta show the pecs jingle and flex. You gotta show the biceps and everything. That's cinematic genius right there.
But it's a pretty amazing movie, and I like I said earlier, this Predator is the most nuanced. He is the best hunter. Like Arnold, the final action sequence shows it perfectly when Arnold sets up all these traps, gets himself all in mud, and he's like, I'm going to go to the perfect vantage point where I can see this guy come in. And where does he come in? From the perfect vantage point. Like, literally, if he was a snake, he would have bit Arnold.
You're absolutely, I never thought about that. You're right. He's like waiting, and then that's why. Yeah, and then the guy comes in, he's right there. Yeah, I like that. And I don't know if you ever watched Red Letter Media's their reviews when they did their discussion on this movie. That one thing they point out that I think is brilliant is how they really took it down from all this sci-fi and their guns, all this stuff. They stripped everything away. There was just this, macho, just one-on-one, just combat, and it really was. It went back to being primal. Even the last fight when he's on the beach and the mud gets washed away, he takes off the mask, drops his lasers and stuff. He's like, it's just us, dude. And as a kid, I remember watching. I was like 9, 10 or whatever the first time I watched this, and I didn't watch the movie. My brother was watching with his friends, and then I saw this scene where he took off and revealed the mask and the face. I'm not going to use the P word for it, but the face opens up. the visuals and the prosthetics and everything to make that work, and the ideation. There's that little story about the guy that came up with this on the airplane and everything. It's brilliant behind the scenes stuff about it. Yeah. Instead of the Jean-Claude Van Damme costume that they've now revealed. But like the reveal of the face, that they want to have something more than just this cool mask, that he was like, this is a new creature and a scary one. And he screams at him.
The mask helped keep the budget down until like the true reveal. Okay, we've only got enough money to like put the Predator face in there for like 15 minutes.
But they were both awesome. Like they both looks are fantastic.
That was another thing that I noticed with the Prey Predator is he didn't have like the atmospheric adjuster. He didn't like
you're right.
It just came right off.
Yeah. Well, maybe and Predator 2 I don't think did that. Maybe because Down in the Jungle down here, maybe it's
Danny Glover like knocked him down and pulled it off and
I'm on the last scene. I didn't finish it yet, but I forgot. Well, whatever. Brilliant. The foreshadowing. I'll ask you one question that a lot of people speculate that showing the ship in the opening before the credits or before it starts the movie, showing the ship coming, just a little light over Earth, and you see a little drop ship pop off.
Yeah, and it's like a little drop ship. Comes out of it.
A lot of people think that that was an afterthought in post-production to add that by the studio, so you had an idea that there was some alien thing here as you go through the journey. As I've considered that theory, that it might be a different experience watching this movie. Having known nothing about Predator, watching this movie from their vantage point, which is the way it's written, that you're from their perspective figuring stuff out and then learning what the predator is, not knowing it's an alien. But I think it'd be pretty, like the second you see that after the attack on the camp, he's got this infrared vision and stuff. I think at that point, you know,
and
they're
that
being
kind of rattle that of their breath.
I can't do it.
Yeah, so I've known people who can do it, and I'm like, you're
so
cool. Awesome. Yeah.
It's the guy that does the voice of Optimus Prime who does that.
If that was the case, like they added that drop ship in post production, like I don't think it was really necessary. There's only two options that it could be. Either one, it's an alien, or two, it's some like weird mythological fantasy instead of sci-fi.
Some sci-fi creature of some kind.
It's like some Mesoamerican mythological monster or something. Really, those are the only two plausible options.
In either case, you're transitioning into a sci-fi movie as opposed to this action military movie. And that's the other brilliant thing about this film is how it goes. It slowly, and they point this out on Red Letter Media, it transitions so subtly from an action movie that you're not actually in an action movie by the time you get to the second half of it. And it's so smooth, you don't even realize it. But that movie at the end of it is not some military we're going in to take out and get our hostages back. No, it's an alien movie. Yeah.
No, it's so lucky we survived.
I would say this, I had a conversation on our last episode on Saints on Sin about the movie Commando. I think Commando,
Commando.
Really? I love Commando, but I think Commando would be it'd be a more solid film as opposed to a goofy Arnold movie. If it wasn't for the comedic vibes and the tones, if it captured like the Predator tone and maintained it, that would be a pretty amazing movie and had someone else cast as Bennett.
Yeah, it wasn't too bad. Oh, gosh, Bennett.
But all the one-liners and all that Arnold stuff, which is what everyone loved about him. And there's one line in this when he throws the knife and the guy says, "Stick around."
Stick around, yeah.
That's the one moment. That's the cringeworthy moment in this movie. And to me, what is an otherwise perfect film. Yes. Even the get to the chopper and all that stuff. It's all fine. It's all great. Even shaking hands, "Oh, Dylan, you son of a bitch." Like that moment.
How are you? Wow.
We got you pushing too many pencils, whatever. That stuff is all fine. It's all the pussy jokes and the one guy Billy and all that stuff. It's all the stereotype stuff. It's all great in the 80s action movie. And this movie holds up. I can watch this right now on my TV. It still looks amazing. It's a great film, except for that one stick around line.
Yep.
No.
The cheesy one-liners never stick. Huh?
Anyway, that's my problem with Commando. And I say if Commando didn't have all that cheesy stuff, which is fine for what it is. I love Commando. I love it. Yeah. But it would have been a very different movie if it maintained all that stuff. Same plot, same actors, except for Bennett. And that could have been like just as good of an action movie as Predator. I don't think it's a good action movie. It's a fun Arnold schlock film.
Yeah.
Predator 2, to me, didn't hold up. It comes off as a schlock film. Predator 1 lands it. It's still great. Nothing wrong with this film.
It's like Empire Strikes Back. It's never going to go out of style.
No, it really won't. Even though my kids like the prequels better than the original or the originals. My kids are like, it's hard for me to watch I don't know if they say the word boring, but it's just like, I just don't really care. I'm like,
they're not as engaging, but
it's true.
I will give George Lucas this. He actually tried to do an original storyline with the prequels instead of the sequel trilogy being just a rehash with a twist.
Mm-hmm. I would watch the prequels over the sequel or the sequel trilogy any day. I will never go back and rewatch them unless I'm doing something for the show.
Yeah.
All right. Predator. That's the obvious and the perfect choice. That movie establishes everything. Arnold and the performance. Actually, the acting in that movie is very good.
Yeah.
The stuff with Mac, the stuff with Billy.
Yes.
He gets all freaked out.
Mac is a very believable special forces guy.
And Mac was in Commando. And with all that macho.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, he was like, "Oh, this Green Beret is gonna eat you," whatever, all that stuff. Anyway,
I remember what it was that we were talking about when I was on the first time.
Oh,
Mortal Kombat.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that was a great conversation.
To bring it full circle.
That movie was fun to talk about. Yeah, that movie. Talk about schlock.
Oh,
And I still maintain the first movie is way more rewatchable than that one. I haven't seen it since because I don't care. Anyway, yeah, but the acting, the transition between Dylan, as he's like, the team is more important. Like, it's not about this corporate BS. We could do a whole nother episode. I had a huge argument with Lance one day in his basement when we were watching this, trying to figure out what the actual mission was, the double crossing and the secret stuff. We'll talk about that another time, but it's not as clear. I don't think anyone really knows what was actually going on.
Was to go in and find the original team that was supposed to go in there.
Right, but it's all the stuff about how they had a secret agenda.
But I think that it was to go in and capture the Predator all along.
But we wanted to figure out what was Dylan's agenda. Like, it's not as clear. We can hash that out sometime. I think we had a long conversation about it, and we had great points of view. Just like in the Return of the Jedi, what was the actual strategy for the Empire and the Rebellion? Like, what was their real goal on how they were going to do? There's the ambush that they're going to flank them and go into the ship. That's obvious. But like, when the rebels were like saying, "Oh, stay close, they're big," all this, like, it gets a little confused about what they were actually trying to do. But that's another video. Anyway, I want to make a series of videos called "What's the Plan?" because I want to figure out what the mission was, because it doesn't make sense sometimes.
Well, regardless of what the mission was in Return of the Jedi, that is hands down the best space battle sequence in all of film history.
Thank you. Absolutely right. And it never will be beaten, because now they'll never take the time to make those shots with models and all that stuff. It'll never be done again.
If it ever is beaten, that's going to be one hell of a sequence.
It'd have to be. But
they tried to in the beginning of Revenge of the Sith, which is a fun space battle too, but it's not Return of the Jedi.
It's not the same. No, I agree with you. That long take of them, but it's all when they start going into the cockpit CGI and out, and that's when it gets all cartoony for me. And I'm like,
and the little droids
it's all CGI. You lose something without the grit of actual models, and no one will ever take the time to make that work with that many pieces ever again. I agree with you. All right, this movie is phenomenal. Great special effects. There's a lot of great commentary behind the scenes stuff, how they came up with the infrared, the camouflage, the technology, like all that stuff. Really creative filmmaking, great acting, great stories. Tragedy. It's a horrible movie. At the end of the film, when you see Dutch and the girl on that helicopter just looking down, just like beat to hell,
exhausted.
Yes, it's that moment like at the end of Die Hard where in both first Die Hards, both of those movies, the first one and then the second one, is like, Holly, you can't find her on the runway. It's that moment where you're like, oh, you just feel for the guy. You feel like he went through what they showed him go through.
Yeah,
brilliant. Awesome. Let me just run fast through my list so you can see where we disagreed.
Well, I know we disagreed in the AVP movies. Like, you kind of made that obvious.
Easily, The Predator is the worst movie because it's garbage. It's complete trash.
It really is. Even when did you notice that in that movie they do the one-liner, get to the chopper? But they're getting to the motorcycles.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Yeah, that's not
get to the choppers.
And a lot of people complained about sequences with those guys. I actually thought that was kind of entertaining when they get to the guy's basement and meet the kid and all that stuff. I thought that stuff was kind of fun for a bit.
Yeah,
that's all.
Yeah, it was not a great film.
No, that stuff, and then the escape. Like I said, that escape from the lab was one of the best. Well, I'd say that's in the top 5 scenes in any Predator movie was in this crappy film. I think it's very.
I think like I said, if you remove the AVP from it, then this is definitely my dead last. Well.
You did mention that. I was gonna say something, but that would, that'd show my hand. The Predator. I debated on this one. Which one is worse, Bailey or AVP 1 or 2? I always would say AVP 2 is better, but when I really think about it, I never go back and rewatch this.
I haven't. Yeah,
I never have. I have watched the AVP, but usually with a Riff Tracks comedic commentary with it because it was hilarious. This one, also Red Letter Media did a commentary on it too. But and that's fun to watch because there's so much wrong with that movie. But honestly, you can't see what's happening in this movie. The characters are all unforgettable. And other than that one sequence with the Predator doing the research on the ship, trying to figure out what happened, that's cool. But it doesn't carry the movie. And at least the other one, like I said, has a few awesome action sequences that this one doesn't carry. So that's the only way Alien
It would be
versus
fun to
Predator
watch
is
some of these movies and do a kind of a Mystery Science Theater 3000
Mhm.
on them.
That'd be
Just
great.
poking
Yeah.
holes in everything.
That's what, I don't know if you watch Riff Tracks. That's what they are. Riff Tracks
That's
is totally,
awesome.
yeah, that's the same guys that did Mystery Science Theater, only you can do it with
nice.
modern movies.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, check it.
I'll
They
have to
have
watch
a
it.
huge library.
Nice.
Yeah, so anyway, Riff Tracks, so check it out. AVP, so that was my number 5. 4, I moved it. It was Prey, but the
Because
only
you watched
reason
it and it didn't hold up.
It's right.
Right?
That's exactly why. Now, I will say this: the action, the technology, the concepts, and everything in this would still normally make it a higher. I'm not gonna say what number, but higher for me. But really, as I watched it just today, it was all nostalgia. I remember watching this with our friend Matt. I remember he owned it, and we would watch it, and he was sleepovers and stuff, watching this and the first one. That's what made this movie awesome. But the acting, the characters aren't that. I mean, you have what's his name? The other cops. They're not that interesting of character. Nothing like the first movie.
No,
And
it doesn't have a good ensemble at all. Even Gary Busey's character just was like,
yes. Yeah, exactly right. I mean, it's a good cast. I like everyone in the movie because you have what's his name? The guy from the obnoxious guy from Weird Science, and Bill Paxton.
Bill Paxton, I couldn't think of his last name. Poor Bill Paxton dying on a surgery table. Oh,
yeah. Any movie with him is gonna be.
He does
great.
A phenomenal job in all of his roles. It feels like.
But this one, I'm like, just shut up. Let's come on. Anyway.
Yeah, it was all just like sex jokes coming out of his mouth.
Yeah.
Like, this is not very much substance to your character.
Yeah, exactly. And this movie threw in that 80s action movie trope where you always had to have like a woman with big breasts and having a sex scene before something bad happened in the middle of an action scene.
Like
this
that was
movie,
way over the top.
Yeah. And they did that, they did that a lot back then. Tango and Cash, Commando, they always barge into, or there's someone in the back of a station wagon or something. There's always some sex scene going on.
Sex scene.
Yeah. And it's like, what? You don't need that, you know?
It's completely unnecessary. Cut that out of it, and it doesn't change the film.
Yeah. No, not at all. He could have been there with the girl, RoboCop. No, RoboCop, they were doing drugs about to have sex, but that one.
Yeah, they were in the hot tub. Yeah, doing drugs.
Yeah, that one was fine. But just unnecessary stuff. It just gets pulled down, and that dates it. That's the thing for me, is that having that shot just dates it, because that's what they did back then. It doesn't hold up as well.
Nope.
But it's a lot of fun, like we talked about. A lot of great continuing the lore, or establishing more about who they are. And back then, that's all we had. So I loved it. There's a lot of great praise for it.
Yeah,
but
it was a good expansion of the universe.
Yeah. But Prey, I would say I would watch Prey again. I want to. I was hoping Lance hadn't watched it. I was like, hey, if you haven't watched it, come over and we'll watch it. He had just finished watching it.
I need to watch it again and try to appreciate it more, because I do feel like my initial reaction was pretty harsh. It was coming from a fanboy stance and kind of a historical fanboy stance,
and it was early in the morning for you too.
I was like, I want to say I started it at like 8 or something like that.
It has a lot of praiseworthy moments in it. I think it's a good story. And I'm sorry, her character is more interesting than everyone except for Danny Glover in Predator 2. So that's why I moved it up a notch. And also, it's fresh in my mind, and probably 5 years from now, I may feel differently. But I think this is a moment of truth that Fox can go on and make more little anthology movies. Just keep them simple and have fun with the franchise. I would love little mini adventures. I'll tell you why. I didn't like the gun at the end, because it just tied it too much. I liked the idea that it was just a one-off adventure until they introduced the gun. Now it connected it. And I'm like, well, it wasn't necessary, And the other side of me,
the little like arrow bolt gun or something.
Yeah.
That would have fit her culture a lot more.
That's cool. That's true. That's a good point. But it's a minor complaint. And they can make more movies. But to me, this was like a potential, like, I can see where they could just go off and make more movies like this.
Well, based on your top 3, because I mean, we know which 2 are coming up next, regardless of what order they're in.
Right.
It just goes to show that when it goes back to basics and like they don't try to do anything fancy or over the top, it turns out much better.
Yeah, and I hopefully Fox will realize that. that you don't
Hopefully.
have to reinvent and make this big.
Yeah.
And that's what happened with the Star Wars movies. That's what happened with Suicide Squad and the AVP, like, or not AVP, BV or Batman vs Superman, BVS. All those movies where they try and just convolute and get so much crap in there, it
So
ruins
much fan service.
and that's what happened to the Predator. And I think Shane Black did that intentionally. Like, you know what? I bet Shane Black would have loved.
I'm going to give these producers everything they want.
Yeah, exactly right. But this was just bare roots, back to the basics.
Yeah.
Like as literal as it could be in this plot. Back to the basics. I loved it.
Yeah.
Predators, because it did the same thing, reinvented, but a new idea. And for everything that we already talked about, it went back to the basic concepts, the same tone.
With a twist.
But it was a new perspective, and you learned, and it was new things that was exciting to experience with the characters. That moment that Lawrence Fishburne like says, "Go to sleep, quiet, they're out there." All that stuff, you really felt tension, especially in the theater when they were in his little home. It was kind of scary. Like, these guys are not safe, even though they're in this place with this guy.
Well, and when they met him too, and he was like, "I've been able to smell you since you got here, and if I can smell you, they can smell you, and you talk too loud."
Yes, exactly. It's really good, and you really feel. And the actors are fantastic. They really are like reacting to where they are. The guy's admiring his katana, like, this guy. This is really old, like all that stuff.
Yeah. Well, and then the samurai fight scene with the wolf predator was
brilliant.
One too.
Yeah. And I think that shot inspired a lot of shots from Prey that we saw. I think that was very, very good. But then when Lawrence Fishburne disappears,
that felt a little like, I mean, he did.
I liked it.
He did say he's like, I can barely live with you, the voice in my head, let alone 6 more people.
Yeah.
So, you know,
and he learns to survive by hoarding, including these guys. Yeah,
they found
really
all those grenades.
Claymores
and stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
That was one of the things that I didn't like, was like, though the Russian guy killed one of the predators with a claymore strapped to his chest. And then Topher Grace had like a dozen grenades strapped to him, and it didn't kill the predator. So, it was a little inconsistent on that one.
Yeah. That one did a lot like Prey did with that setup of like, you remember when he stepped on it and you tried to maim, like, he's like, no, they're not, this wasn't supposed to kill us, it was supposed to maim us, and we're gonna use that. And like they have a good time like running with very basic, obvious concepts. Yeah. But they make it fun and they make it interesting and they keep you in suspense. If I watch a Predator movie and knowing everything I know about the Predators from the first 2 movies, I know everything there is to know about them. There's always more to experience as you learn a little bit more about these aliens and what's happening in this story. If I'm in suspense and excited and anticipation, but I'm not, and there's like tension for the characters that they're a threat, I'm enjoying myself.
Yeah.
Predators, no tension, no concern, didn't give a crap about any of it. AVP, science team, don't give a crap about any of it. Anyway, obvious choice, number 1, the Predator. It's if I was rating it in my normal rating system, I do characters 2 out of 2, cinematography 2 out of 2. The work, the foreground stuff when they're paneling, when they're like climbing down a hill, and then you see the camera working on following this person, this person, and there's like bushes and stuff like in the foreground of the shot. Just amazing. I love that when they do that stuff.
It's a beautiful movie.
And they had to go through and they had to chop up a lot of the foliage to make, because it was way too dense. You can't film. It doesn't look like it does in the movie in the real life. They had to thin it out so they could make shots like that. It's just a lot of work.
And the fact that it holds up, especially with the optical camouflage Predator for when it was created. Like that says
it's something. Goofy looking now, but it's fine. It's just fine. The music, that's the other one, music and sound design. That song is awesome. And then
the one thing I was disappointed with Prey too. They didn't have it at all. Kind of allusion to.
Yeah, and in Predators, at the end of Predators, they did the same thing where they did the little shots, the fun shots of each person as it had that little upbeat music. Then it rolled into the scrolling credits. It's really good. But yeah, music. So music 2 out of 2, and sound design for the Predator noises it makes, so brilliant. Cinematography, characters, special effects, it holds up. And
it was something new that we hadn't seen in sci-fi at that point.
That's the other one. Story, narration. This is 10 out of 10. Every one of those categories is 2 out of 2. This movie is a perfect film.
Yeah,
a lot of people
great originality.
Everything except for the one line.
Yep.
Stick it around, but that
is a flaw.
Yeah, that's not going to break it up. Okay, that's it. The Predator. Ooh, Predator. Best movie. That's my top. So they were pretty consistent. The only was just, actually, I think they were identical except for I flipped just to be contrary. I flipped Prey and Predator too. But you're and you would have put the Predator in the same place. I think we just inverted Predator 1 and 2.
I just hated the AVPs more, I guess.
Yeah. Or well, you disassociated them with the Predator franchise.
Yeah, there's that also.
Which is fair. Anyway, Nate, thank you so much for your time.
Yeah.
This was a lot, 2 hours. We're hitting 2 hours now. I didn't expect it to take that long, but hey, it was fun. Good conversation.
Yeah. I love having deep conversations like this.
Well, we love having you. We need to just find some more things in your wheelhouse that you enjoy talking about. You're not super, and I'm not criticizing. Most people shouldn't be too popular or too active on Facebook with everything, but like you don't shoot out. Whenever you shoot out a thought about a movie or something, that's when I should have Nate come on and talk about it. So if you ever have something come out that you're passionate about, I want to hear it. And I wanted to get you on here as soon as I saw your post. I was like, Nate has some strong feelings if he didn't like Prey. I really liked it. So let's talk.
I'd love to come on your show and do something with Lance. He always has great ideas and is very contrary as well. And so I that's one of my favorite. He's one of my favorite people to converse with on Facebook. Is we have actual like substantial conversations.
Well, I'm glad you feel that way because I always attack him saying, Lance, you're such a different person on Facebook than in real life. He argues that he doesn't agree and he doesn't believe me, but I'm like, I don't interact with him much on Facebook because of that. I would rather talk to him in person because he's a different guy to me. That's my perspective, but whatever. He's a troll. And we can get whatever you want. And he's like, I'm not a troll. I believe everything I say. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, but that doesn't make it not trolling.
Right. For him to make the comment, this is a real quote from him that the Star Wars Holiday Special is a more entertaining thing to watch than the prequel movies. I'm like, you are so full of crap.
That's provocative
it's so not true. And he says that. I'm not ripping on Lance. We're on this line. But like, he's my best friend.
Love you, Lance.
I hang out with him all the time. He's my best friend. He's on the show. I love having him on the show, and I love doing reviews with him. It's so much fun. But he's full of crap. And when he tells people on Facebook that he watches the Star Wars Holiday Special every year, he's lying. What he does is at his job, they have it playing for fun as a joke in the background while they're working. That's not the same experience as actually watching those freaking Wookiees for half an hour growling at each other with no subtitles and nothing interesting going on in that crazy variety show from like what looks like the 50s, even though it was the 80s. He's full of crap. Or 78 or whatever.
And it's evidence that he's a troll.
Exactly. That's my point. I was like, no one in the world in the right mind can watch the Star Wars Holiday Special and then watch episode 1 or 2 and say, this was better than those. He's so full of crap.
I can rewatch the prequel trilogy.
Any of them. They're not that.
There's plenty wrong and pick it apart while I watch it, but
because you can't
watch it just fine.
Right. Anyway, we'll figure something out and have Lance on here with you. I almost invited him to this, but I know he's recovering from some war injuries from his new whatever it is, his sword fighting combat.
Right?
No, but I might put it past him, and he would invite me to do it. And
lightning bolt.
No, he just joined a club that goes to Renaissance. They do the tournament with all padded up in real armor and stuff.
It's like I have other friends who do that they do the foam fighting, and there's some of them who do the.
Oh, it's just all real weapons.
They're real like blunted, and it's really cool stuff.
Yeah, they do it like they demonstrate or prove combat at like Renaissance fairs and stuff like that because it's
there's
real.
A full on like There's a full
leagues.
league.
Yeah. He just got back from Montana and he has like some injuries from his trip to Montana doing it. So yeah, so I was like, I'll let him rest. So anyway, Nate, you're awesome. I miss you. We don't get to interact as much. We need to get together sometime and hang out, go see a movie, something that's coming out. But that sounds like it'd be fun to not enjoy together because Misery loves company, right? But we'll get together soon and we'll record some reactions of something that we know is just gonna be terrible. But it'd be great to see you. But thank you so much for being on the show. This was a long one, but it was worth it. Definitely worth it.
Thanks for having me on the show.
Absolutely.
I enjoy it.
Okay. Well, Nate Woodbury, my friend, it's been fun. And thanks for watching, everyone. If you don't agree with our lists, well, you can't have the first and last on our list wrong. So anything in the middle can be shuffled around with reasonable argument. But definitely the best is Predator and the worst is the Predator.
Yeah, opinions are like buttholes. Everybody has them and they all stink except for your own. Yeah. All right.
Okay. Bye, Nate. Well, everyone, thanks for watching. We'll catch you next time on Saints on Cinema. Take care.
Take it easy.